What is up, guys? You already know why we're here. You've been here 10 other times before, and now it's episode 10. Welcome back to the MindTalks podcast, today featuring the man, Ryan James.
What's up? Good to be back on here with you, man.
It's been a while since we've been in this room recording together.
What was the actual date? We pulled it up.
June 20th.
20th. I think we've gone under some metamorphosis in that time.
Oh, definitely. We've grown substantially as people, as our businesses, doing what we love, creating new ideas. We've grown immensely in that time for sure.
It's interesting to look back on it because that first episode as a marker was a really great conversation. I mean, I watched it the other day, and we covered some pretty cool points, I must say. But in that time, since then and now, the format of this, I think, has evolved a bit, and the direction in both of our lives has advanced substantially.
Definitely. We talked, in our first episode, we sort of unwrapped your history and your past and how you've got to where you are today. And I feel like a whole new story has sort of unwrapped from June 20th until right now being October 11th. Like, what is that, 4 months of, it's crazy how much we've grown, our ideas, how different they are, and just, it's a whole new story in a matter of 4 months.
Yeah. Almost like a rebranding, a repurpose, restart, because on a personal level, from my business perspective and artistic perspective, I'm at a completely different trajectory right now than I was then. And I think kind of you're in the same boat as well.
Agreed, for sure. It's crazy. It's like, it blows my mind what we've been able to accomplish so far and doing. I feel like we're finally on that path of our ball was at the top of the hill for a while, and we sort of just finally tipped it over the edge, and we're just starting to, up, but for metaphorical reasons, we're finally going down that hill full speed, and we're diving right into it head first.
Momentum is gaining, but I think that comes from consistency and also trying and failing multiple times, because to the viewers, there been a few episodes that we've done in here that just didn't make the cut, that we've been kind of like, that ain't working.
Yeah.
We're not putting that out, just because it's a thing you have to practice. You have to sharpen it up. And I mean, the last one being June 20th, 4 months in between. If you practice once every 4 months, I don't know. It's not a very sharp.
Definitely not. It's harder than people make it out to be. It's harder than what you think. It's
Definitely.
Conversational skills in front of lighting and microphones and cameras and all this. It's completely different than if you were just hanging with a friend. It adds, even though it's fake, like it's not a real pressure, it still adds that pressure to the conversation.
Yeah, there is like an inner dialogue, or like, did I just say that, or I gotta sound cool, or almost like a self. Whereas in normal conversation, when you're just in a car sitting around a campfire, there's a little bit less pressure, because the give and take is just a different format, and it's one that I'm enjoying learning too, because every time we do this, we get better incrementally. Reps. Yeah, reps, literally. Like
we said, we were texting a few days ago, and I was like, every time I've made a podcast, I've gained a few followers after that podcast. And it's like, if we just keep continuing to put out, it'll steadily increase. And it's the same thing with our skills. The more we get in here, the last episode, we recorded an episode with Michael, and unfortunately we had to scrap it. That was the original episode 10. Now we have this one. The audio wasn't how we wanted it to. The conversation didn't really flow how we wanted it to. And it's going to happen. We have to get those mishaps out of the way to be able to succeed. And through every failure, we've learned and we've grown. And as long as it continues to be like that, there is no losses. There's only learning.
And none of us were on point. It's kind of one of those things where it was like, none of us were on point that day. And having high standards of yourself and what you do and put out there, I think, is important. There's something to be said about, you can measure success from where you started, but if you go back to the first video, it's an interesting thing to, like a practice to do. Go to the first video of some of your favorite YouTubers. It's pretty remarkable to see the progress. They're almost unrecognizable, because you see this well-polished person 10 years down the road who's slick, has all this stuff in alignment, but it took 10 years of 1,000 episodes to get to that black belt level of podcasting, speaking, whatever it is, sport. I think something that's missed, especially nowadays, is how much work actually goes into something. the past this week, have learned that firsthand, and how difficult it actually is to tie all this stuff together, making all the pages. There's legal aspects, consolidating all that stuff. It's an incredible amount of work and knowledge to try and gain in a short amount of time. A lot of plates to keep spinning.
And it just keeps unraveling too. It's like you finally figure something out and then something else pops up and you're like, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And yeah, it is. It's a lot of work, but ultimately it is worth it in the end because we're pursuing daily what we want to do. It's not even about reaching that. Like, obviously it's about reaching the goal, but it's just enjoying that process and waking up and being able to chase something. There's people that don't have something to chase are just missing out on sort of the purpose of life. It's not that you always have to be in a constant pursuit, but you should always want to level up at something, whether it's your diet, it's working out, it's podcasting, it's anything you like, your job. Just being able to constantly level up and improve every day is truly, in my opinion, like the meaning of life.
Incremental progress, no doubt. And to that point, the road trip is the most enjoyable part. You get to the destination, which is, you wanted to get there, but all the stuff along the way is like really meaningful.
Priceless.
Yeah. And the biggest part of the story, ultimately. The destination is kind of, you arrive, but you never really arrive. I think that's kind of a misconception. It's always a continuation. And like you said, you just unravel new things to overcome, new hurdles. And in this game of content creation and podcasting, I don't know that there's an end to it. It's just, as technology advances, as society presses forward, as we change as individuals, there's always going to be something new to overcome, and new things entering, new platforms that you have to learn, all the platforms that exist that you can share and be discovered on are incredible, but to actually get the content to put out there on all those things simultaneously, it's beyond a full-time job. It's an immense amount of work.
100%. And it's just the things you take with you along the way. There's a story in this book that I read a few weeks ago, and I'm going to completely butcher the story, but basically the purpose of it was there was a hunter who was chasing this monster, and he would look behind trees, in caves, all this stuff chasing this monster. And in the end, he realized that the rocks he collected along the way, the images he saw, everything that he did made him the hunter that he was today. And it wasn't catching that monster, it was improving himself by finding these things, seeing these things. And it's, like I said, completely 100% just butchered that story, but just the idea of enjoying that process and valuing the things you learn along the way, because today you're way better than what you were yesterday, and keeping that same mentality throughout life is very important.
Yeah, I don't think you butchered it at all, because that sentiment is there. The journey is everything, and on a personal level, this place, I recorded my first episode the other day, and
Positive Bias, shout out, check out their Instagram, check out the podcast, all ran by Ryan. Make sure to like, and it's on Spotify now too. Follow all their social medias. He just spent like 2 days making all the social media accounts for it.
It's a difficult thing to get a podcast out there. The correct way, in my mind.
All the links will be in the description too, by the way. So scroll down, check those out. Make sure to follow, subscribe, like, share, do all that stuff.
Oh yeah, see, it's cool too how many people actually follow you and you don't realize it, and how accessible the world truly is. I mean, just posting a video onto Instagram, for instance, there's people coming out of the woodwork that I didn't know even followed me and engaging with it. So maybe as just a inspirational thing, everything is more accessible than you think. Although this process is extremely difficult and takes a lot of concerted effort and maybe a learning curve, it's totally worthwhile in the end, because you're opening doors that will last the rest of your life. And one conversation will lead to the other. Ultimately, we start refining this as a business, really, but also just a catharsis, a way to express yourself and think. The network grows and grows, and suddenly people want to be on your podcast. They want to talk to you. You get invited to speak. It's something that just grows exponentially.
And it's all by doing too. There's this hope. There's this false idea of hope that people have, where they think that they deserve something. They think, oh, I want to have this successful podcast. Well, like, you don't deserve it if you don't put in that work. For anything in life, there's this just false ideologies on deserving things. And I think that with hope, it's you make your own hope. You don't hope for something, go make it happen. Like, if you're like, hey, I want to do this, and someone's like, I hope it works out for you. No, I'm going to make it work out for me. There is no hope. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the laws of physics are that. It's action and reaction. You need a certain amount of input to get a certain amount of output. That applies to almost everything in life. On a physics standpoint, not that I'm a physicist, but I understand it enough to know you need equal force to push something.
Yeah.
Equal and opposite reaction. And the same is true. Take a podcast, for instance. The amount of work you have to put in, both studying the format, listening to others, building the format, acquiring the gear, acquiring the knowledge, the editing, everything that goes into it. It's a cool thing. I'm glad to be on the same kind of trajectory with you, like experiencing it in real time. Because I think, well, I know the only way is up at this point. I mean, every episode you release is going to have more followers, more traction, more engagement, and it's just going to be another mile marker, just another step in the right direction.
For sure. Just level up episode by episode, level up our skills, our conversational skills, our marketing, our advertising, everything. It's consistently, we just have to take it to a next step every time and keep bringing it. And I'm a huge believer in consistency over time equals results. It's consistency. Ask any celebrity. Every time somebody asks an influencer, a celebrity, no matter the amount of followers, 10,000 to 10 million, they always say consistency is key when asked tips to becoming a successful fill in the blank. It's always consistency. It's hard work and consistency. There is no shortcut. There is no
secret.
There's no secret.
No.
There's no fast fat burning pill that you're going to take that's going to get you jacked. It's showing up to the gym every day, cleaning up your diet, drinking your water, following it daily. There is no I want to have this successful podcast and releasing one episode every few months like we've been.
Oh yeah.
No, we're getting on this weekly upload schedule.
2 a week minimum.
Yeah. Producing, putting out our highest quality shit multiple times a week, one time a week, whatever, just a consistent upload schedule to where we're not slacking, and it steadily increases. It builds. And there's also going to be dips. There's going to be decreases. There's going to be an episode that doesn't hit like the previous one did. And the beauty in that is you have to find beauty in the struggle, in my opinion. It's people, that is why there's such false beliefs on what you deserve and what you hope for, is because people are scared of the struggle and they shy away from it. When in reality, we struggle in here all the time. We failed episode with Michael. We failed getting something done before, and it's taking something out of that and taking learning from it over anything else. It's such a beautiful concept, and that's how you grow.
No doubt. Yeah, it's fall in love with the process, because the process is the way. I mean, that's 99% of it is the process.
There truly is no destination. There is no concrete destination ever, because as soon as you reach your so-called destination, all you're going to do is start a new process. Once you reach, let's say your goal is to make $1 million. Once you reach that $1 million, it's going to be, all right, how can I make the next
Will
million?
you really be satisfied at that point? Yeah. Is that when you stop?
And there's nothing wrong with that either. It should be an everlasting process of chasing your goals, because you should never be comfortable in that sense. Growth only happens in uncomfortable situations. You can only grow in discomfort, in my opinion, personally. And I think that, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, comfortability is the devil.
So something I do want to bring up, because we talked about it prior to the episode, and we've been talking about it for a few months now, let's say between the last episode and now, are the distractions and all the things that prevent us personally. I mean, this applies to me first and foremost. This isn't accusatory or some kind of indictment of people, but
please accuse me.
The distractions that are, it's so easy to be distracted these days with all of the apps on your phone, with the phones themselves, with the way that human beings engage with each other. Mastering focus is an absolute gift. It's something that if you can focus your attention, it's almost a superpower in these days, because everyone is so fragmented, myself included. I mean, again, this isn't accusatory because this applies to me first and foremost. It's something I'm actively trying to change, is not be so glued to my phone. The phone. It's the phone.
It's 100% the phone, because it wasn't necessarily that distraction wasn't as big of a problem until it became easily accessible to the point where it's in our pocket
and engineered
right
to be the way that it is. The colors they use, the app, the notifications, the sounds, the way those things are built, the foundations of them are designed to be addictive things that trigger dopamine responses in your brain. And we're creatures, after all, creatures of habit, creatures of convenience, and
they have us right where they want us.
Yeah. And I think these are really important tools. That said, I mean, the way that we promote our lives and business is going to be with phones, but mastering the focus, attention, and having discipline to be, now is not phone time. Now this goes away now. This is not, the phone is for sharing, creating, engaging during certain windows of the day, and is not to be used all the time. I really want to try and implement that into my own life. And I mean, this is maybe a public statement of that, where times in my life, I rejected having a cell phone until somewhat recently. I didn't have a smartphone until 3 years ago. And I finally succumbed to it and got one. And I want to go back. I want to revert to where I was before, because the amount of productivity and your own mental space that you have ownership of when the phone isn't the first thing that you see in the morning, before you go to bed, throughout the day. I mean, you could be having meaningful conversations with people, and when you pull out your phone, it's communicating to them, what you're saying doesn't really matter. You know, it's a sad thing that we all do. And I don't know, I just wanted to bring that up because we had discussed it, and I kind of want to expand on that because I think it's an important topic for everyone to kind of take inventory of their own life, you know?
100%. And it also gives you false emotions in a way where if you wake up and the first thing you do is check your phone and you open Instagram and there's something that you don't like, something that just triggers a negative feeling in your brain, well, then that day for you already starts negatively when
all the time.
Didn't have to. There is 100% no need for it to start off like that. And like we said, I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of it more than anyone. My screen time is up to like 6 hours a day, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's shocking actually, because in aggregate total, you don't think I didn't spend. It's almost a full day of work. That's 40 hours a week, bro. That's like, we were talking about this before. Like, your time as a human being, your existence is invaluable. You can't put a dollar amount on it. But say you just valued your time at $150 an hour times 40 hours a week. I mean, that's a serious amount of money.
Yeah.
And obviously it's more about value and optimizing your time than it is monetary. But
going back to the idea of windows of using it, it's, I was talking about that with Malia on the drive home last night, and we talked about this earlier, is it's like, I want to have separate work times where, yeah, the phone is needed for me because it is part of my job. It's part of the business that I'm creating, and technology as a whole is. But like you said, it's the mastery of now is phone time, now is not phone time. It's the same. It's separating work from family life. It's that same sort of concept of, okay, when I'm here or from 4 to 6, whenever my working time is, once I figure that out, that is phone time to engage, to promote, to produce all these things. But then after that, no, now it's becoming aware and being present in the current situation, because there is none of that anymore. There is no more present. And I'm guilty of it too. I was just at a concert like a week ago, and I find myself, instead of enjoying it and being there, I'm recording it. I'm like, what am I doing? Put your phone down. Like, what are you doing?
I'm that guy. Yeah. It's, I'm almost the meme,
Yeah.
There's
like, I'm 100% making fun of myself right now talking about all of this. This isn't, like you said, accusatory of anybody that's listening. I'm accusing myself of it because
it applies to me first. I'm guilty.
I'm not present. I will admit I'm present.
Do it all the time.
I'm more present than certain people because I am taking mental note of it and I'm aware of it. And awareness is a huge thing in life, but especially in being present, because presence comes from awareness. But I'm not present like I should be. Nobody is. Everyone's outside walking around on their phones. You see people in Lake Geneva that have probably come here from Chicago or somewhere around, and they're just walking around on their phone. They're not even taking in the scenery, taking in the restaurants, taking in anything, where it's like, and like I said, me too. I do the same thing. So this isn't me saying I'm better than anybody, because I'm just the same. And I think we have to fix it because it's a huge societal problem.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I found myself, I used to have this a hard, fast rule of like, phone while driving is not an option, but I'll find myself pulling my phone out and looking at it while I'm driving. Like, what am I doing? I'm endangering other people's lives, my own life, fender bender, whatever it is. Like, what could possibly be more important than driving a 5,000 pound vehicle at 65 miles an hour down the road? It's unbelievable that your brain could even be like, yeah, let's risk it for the momentary dopamine drip of the like that just came through or whatever. I really think that we have to put up some, and this will come from self-imposed limitation or guidelines, because I don't think that companies, they want you to use the product ultimately. Like, the more time you spend on the app, the more attention they get, the more money they get. So they're not going to do it. It has to come from you. It's a self-discipline, just like anything else. Nobody goes to the gym for you.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to start the business for you.
That goes back to the point we made earlier of just do it. Like Nike,
they nailed that
on that slogan. And I never understood it until recently. Like, just do it. Like,
it's vague,
was just
right?
a cheesy, vague statement where now I feel it.
Right.
Now I literally wake up and my brain 24/7. I wake up in the morning, I go to sleep, I dream about success, how I'm going to be successful in my field, how I'm going to improve myself daily, how I'm going to improve my business daily, all these things. And I'm like, why am I thinking about this? Just go do it. Don't even waste the mental energy of planning what I'm going to do in a week. Do what I can today and get that done. And then advance and improve small things daily. Because if you plan out smaller things daily and you hit those, it'll be way more than if you say you want to be here in a year. And that goes to the importance of small goals too.
Oh, yeah.
The other day, me, you, and Malia were sitting here in the studio, and we decided to make a 90-day goals list, the three of us, right? And so far, I'm able to scratch off like 2 things on that list already in, 4 or 5 days? A week, maybe the most, because it's like I would make these goals for a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and it's not realistic because it's changing always. And on top of that, it's so vague to the point where it gives you an excuse to say, I'll do it tomorrow.
Sure.
If I want to accomplish this in 10 days, what makes the difference if I do it today? Or I'm sorry, if I want to accomplish this in 10 years, what makes this the difference if I do it today or if I do it tomorrow? There is none when you look at it at that large scheme. But if you say, I only have 90 days to accomplish this task, I have 90 days to produce 20 podcasts, whatever it is, do it today, because doing it today and then doing it tomorrow and doing it the next day will get you way farther than saying, okay, let's plan for 5 years ahead from now.
I'm definitely guilty of being far too ambitious in my goal setting. Always kind of grandiose almost. And that there's something about that that's good. You should have dreams that scare yourself and other people, where it's like, yeah, I want to play Red Rocks. I want to play a sold out show at Red Rocks. That's a real dream of mine. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, that ain't going to happen just because they're like, hey, we heard you want to play here. Like, ain't not happening. I have to build to that point. And that's the long-term goal. But yeah, to the point of being overly ambitious, you end up becoming disappointed because they seem so unattainable, because you haven't laid down the framework that will ultimately get you there. So It's, what am I going to do this week that'll lead to next week? And I think that was a good move we made to write those down. And I can say too, I can report, I'm checking those off too. There's quite a few that the past 3 days really have been more productive than almost the past 3 months in many ways.
That's how I feel.
Especially internally.
Like I said, I feel like we really, truly got that ball rolling. For the past over a year now, we've been talking about having a successful podcast, and we finally laid down that framework of starting all the social media, starting to produce for those social medias, and not just making a podcast and hoping it blows up. No, we're going to make it blow up single-handedly by making it on all these social medias, advertising it, all these things. And that's what we've been doing, and it's productivity, and it's accomplishing small goals, which will in turn lead you to bigger goals.
Conscious effort. It takes the real conscious effort, and nothing is easy. Anyone who told you that anything's easy, doing nothing is easy, I guess. And even that's not easy, because you have to deal with the fact that you're not getting anywhere and the self-loathing that brings about. But nothing is easy. I've gotten a few inquiries over the past couple weeks about, hey, I want to start doing some of the stuff you do, like video-wise. And I don't want to pay any money for it, and I want it to be really easy. I'm like, you can't. That's not how it works.
You don't want to do what
it's
I
a
do.
complicated process. You have to understand a lot of different things. I mean, you can maybe use the GoPro app and throw stuff in there and auto edit it, but everything takes the behind the scenes. Look at the credits at the end of a movie. There's hundreds of people that made that movie what it is. And if you research some of there's a guy that just focuses the lens, the focus puller. That's all he does on set. That's all he does. That's his discipline and his contribution to it. And he's the best at it. He's the one. Nobody tells him how to do it. Nobody suggests this or that. He's the focus puller. And that's how productions ultimately happen, is mastering a certain thing. But nothing is easy. That's a total mythology that I think the sooner you accept that and the sooner you accept that, the better, because the struggle, again, back to the original point, the struggle is kind of the way, because nothing's easy.
That movie credit example sort of plays right into what we were talking about with small goals, where it's like having 100 people create this large movie is way more efficient and gets it done faster than if you have one guy do the whole movie. And that plays into the goal where it's like, okay, you have this large goal, meaning this large movie you want to make, right? You have 100 people making the movie, and you have those 100 small goals over the course of a year. Hitting those small goals will accelerate your progression and probably get that goal accomplished way sooner than you anticipated, or get that movie way sooner than you anticipated, because trying to accomplish this vague idea is it's too easy to make excuses.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, I use that production example a lot of times because it takes, there's so many facets to success or creating anything. And at face value, on the surface level, it's easy to minimize things and look at them and be like, well, look at any, successful fighter. The amount of mat time required to be at that level is, you can't even imagine. They're there right now. You know what I mean? They're there grinding it out. They're there when the lights turn off. They have to be ushered out. Like, yo, man, we're closing. That's the level of dedication it takes to be great. It's
at anything. People think that it's just the big things like that. Everything takes an extreme amount of work in some shape or form.
So in the past 90 days, you brought up something that is really an admirable kind of mission, and I want you to expand upon. I know this is your podcast, but I want to prompt you about this. Is that pursuing barber school, and also if you could expand to me about how you want to parlay that with the other pursuit of content creation, because I think it's a really cool idea, and one that, man, you'd be uniquely suited to do. So. Yeah, just riff on that, man.
So quick background about barbering. I've been going to the same barber shop since like 7th grade, going to the same barber. Shout out my boy Javi. Amazing barber, amazing shop. The shop is insane. I've worked with them in terms of modeling for them, and they always hook it up, always have the best cuts. People are in and out the doors always. Shout out Skull and Thrones in Addison, Illinois.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah, awesome. Make sure you check them out if they're a great barbershop.
I'm actually gonna go there because I need to get cut up here.
Definitely, yeah. It's off Lake Street, and I've always been fascinated with it because I've never been the 9-to-5 guy. I'd rather work more hours for myself than those 8 under somebody else. And I've also been scared of censorship. I never want to be told what I can or can't wear.
What clothes, yeah.
What tattoos I can or can't have. And being a barber allows you to have that freedom in terms of you can wear what you want to wear. And it's a very fashion inclusive culture. It's a very trendy culture, I guess you can say. It's always up to date, and they understand it. If you work for an old corporation, like I work at a grocery store right now, they don't understand fashion trends of today or whatever, So that is what sparked my interest in cutting hair. And I also love helping people, connecting with people, conversation. I love podcasts. So being able to have that conversation with somebody in a chair is amazing. So yeah, that's where being a barber stemmed from. I start barber school hopefully in February or March, somewhere around there. I graduate high school in January of this year, 3 months away from now, which is crazy. Then I start barber school from there at the Paul Mitchell School in Milwaukee.
Sweet.
So how I want to parlay that, I'm improving my photography right now. I've been learning a shit ton about it and trying to improve myself better every day. Right now it's just been stuff with my phone, but then also film photography. I'm huge into film photography, and I've been doing it I've taken 3 total years now of classes for film photography spread out my freshman and sophomore year, and then my senior year right now. And I have a vision of being able to travel and do what I want and have that freedom. And to me, my main passion is creation, whether that's creating someone's haircut, creating someone's picture. So I thought to myself, hey, let's merge the two together. So my end goal is to eventually be able to travel with bands, celebrities, whoever it may be, and do their hair and photography for them on the road, go on tour with them, go to their shows. If they're coming here, do it when they're here. All these things, be able to connect with them, build connections, and just all together bring their creative image to life, because that's what I want to be able to do, is take someone's thought in their head and put it on them, take that picture of them, whatever it may be, and just be able to produce for them. That's my goal right now, is just being a photographer and a barber for those people and being able to travel and do all that stuff.
They're art forms that really complement each other because they're a very aesthetic thing. And to kind of expand upon how it's a non-judgmental kind of industry, because it is at the vanguard of culture. Haircuts, there's extreme styles in it. It's just one of those things where having full sleeve neck tattoos, it's not an issue. Wearing outlandish clothing, not an issue. And I 1,000% agree with you there. Having walked the line of some corporate jobs, I dipped my toe into it throughout my life. I can say without question, I don't belong there, and I know you don't belong there either. Definitely. It's really important to, if you know that, not to pretend that you don't even enter, because you just don't fit in there. Ultimately, you can't find a place in there, and I don't want that to sound defeatist or anything like that. But some people are just not cut out for that, and knowing your passion early on, knowing that isn't cut out for you, you have such a leg up on. I don't want to say the competition, because I don't really believe in competition. You're in competition with yourself always. That's it. But not playing that game and just, oh, we'd prefer you wear a suit, a tie. Like, what is it? Come on, dude. What does that have to do with my performance at this job? Honestly, tell me truthfully. What does a tie have to do with how good I do this job? It's not. It's just a pageant. It's weird. But those two pursuits really complement each other well. When you first brought it up to me, I was really intrigued, because barber school is not something I wasn't exposed to it enough to have ever considered it. But it's an art form. Having gone to some really cool barbershops on the West Coast, it's a whole experience that it's kind of like a lost thing that used to be, men would go and it was like a social club, and that kind of went away with the corporatization of like haircuts. Like, I don't want to drop any names, but like some of the corporate haircuts where it's just like get in, get out, whatever. There's no personal experience. They're like therapists. I went to this guy over in Silver Lake, and I forget his name. I'm sorry, but he's been doing it so long. He's like a therapist. You leave feeling better, like rejuvenated. Like, dude, that was he gave me some solid life advice right there. Seriously. He told me about this place. He's like, I have a feeling that's going to be a really big deal for you, Ryan. And I'm like, the dude's like 90 or like 85, been doing it a long time. So I took that to heart, and I'm like, anyway, to have that impact on people's lives and be that person, and to be able to have those 3 defined skill sets, photography, videography, and the art of barbering, really cool idea, man. I see that being a very worthwhile pursuit. And
thank you. I do. I appreciate it. And I appreciate when people can also, not that I need it, but I appreciate it when people see the same vision that I have for it, where it could be a huge thing. It builds connections. We already are building connections in the process of doing what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And I think as soon as I get my foot in the door, it's just going to be a straight upward,
avalanche, bro.
Yeah. Just
onward and upward.
Down full force. Yeah.
And forget how small the world actually is. Yes, there's 8 billion people, but in niche industries, in certain things, I can tell you from having been exposed to the industry of the music industry, the film world, it's extremely small. A few 100,000 people max, and a few thousand if you really condense it down. You are not that far separated from the people you want to talk to and be on stage with. It's not, they are accessible. I know this. I've done it. It's mind-blowing how accessible they are, especially if you put in motion, first of all, believing that you belong there. Like if you're on stage with people and you're like, I don't belong here. Well, maybe you don't. But if you believe, nah, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Like,
that's the point I was going to bring up right now, where call me cocky. I'm not cocky. I'm confident. I'm that guy. I know I'm that guy, and I know I'm going to be that guy, where I know I have the personality to make those connections, keep those friends, and I know I can just connect with people on that deeper level of bringing their creative images to life. I know I can produce. I know I'll be able to be a sick barber. I have the people around me that are amazing, high-level people at what they do. The owner of Skull and Thrones, like the head barber over there, he cuts Clay Guida's hair.
wow.
Like,
No way.
huge. Yeah.
He's got a mane to maintain,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Shout
Huge.
out Clay Guida.
Huge names. Everyone is around us.
That's cool.
Shout out T-Peck had David Dobrik literally 300 feet in that
Yeah.
direction from this building, a block that way.
Edited the
filming.
vlog
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's you're what is it, 6 degrees of separation? I think it's even less than that, to be honest with you.
For us, at least, we're a degree of separation away
from some of the biggest names in the world, in the music world, and it's connections. Yeah, you have to use them, and you have to leverage them, and you have to position yourself in a place where you can actually be the guy. That's what a lot of this is developing this down to an art form where this can be the launch pad for all the things you're talking about. Famous rappers come through, suddenly you're doing their hair and photo shoot and a podcast. I mean, it's a dope idea.
Yeah, thank you. Something I've learned from you where I never understood it until I met you, and it's not even because you told me about it, it was just by watching you. I've always been a very socially anxious person to where even last year, I started a new school last year, and I would get like anxiety attacks because of the amount of people and like in the school, and I work at a grocery store, so I'm always around people. And it wasn't until I started hanging around with you a lot where I understood and felt the idea of making yourself as a human being marketable. And like I said, you never told me that with your words, but you would go and say hi to everybody. You could have a few minute long conversation with anybody we were around, regardless the niche they're in, regardless of their age, their gender, whatever it may be. And I really started putting that into effect the school year. I've made more friends than I have in my entire life in terms of connections, in terms of meeting people, in terms of getting my name out there. Just making yourself marketable, being friendly with everybody, being able to hold a conversation with people and just express your ideas and be able to take in their ideas and connect on that deeper level is such a huge thing that since I've met you, I've implemented into my own life. And I feel like it's skyrocketed my potential from here through the roof. There is no potential, like no cap on the potential.
Awesome. That means a lot to me for you to say that, because to have that effect on other people, I don't necessarily know that. And, you know, you expressing that means a lot, because it's something that maybe I have an innate gift for, is speaking to people and just being genuine. And that goes a long way, just being genuine with people. And you can't believe how much the world opens up when you just say hello and mean it, not just like for the sake of doing it necessarily, but listening is also an art form too. As we exchange on this podcast, it's like you have to really listen and be intentional with like what the people are saying and how to respond and be socially aware and just engaging with people on a meaningful, authentic level is that our society has shifted away from that. Unfortunately, there's vapid, synthetic, non-real things, you know, and look at I made a TikTok regrettably yesterday for some of my businesses, and some of the first things that popped up, I'm like, should I delete this right now? I don't know if I'm in the right space. Then again, that's just the algorithm trying to be like, look at this. You can train it to be all the things you want to see, exactly. Musicians, whatever. But just being authentic and opening the door, right? And you said something about being nervous about the move and going to a new school. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, it's a hard thing to overcome. Like you just get plucked out of one place that you're comfortable in, put into another. But becoming a social chameleon, I think, is a really important skill set to have. And it takes work because you're going to have some weird conversations, uncomfortable ones, but just being open. I don't know. I just thoroughly enjoy talking to people. I really do.
I'm starting to learn that about myself too. I've always loved conversation, but always with people I was comfortable with. Mm-hmm. Now I want to hear new people's ideas.
Challenge.
I want to hear your beliefs about things. Something that I learned from Malia was small talk is stupid. Mm-hmm. They're like, what is small talk? Like, I want to learn about you and your belief systems and all this. And I was always the anxious person in the room. I never wanted to talk to people. Even when we first started hanging out and we would walk around places and you would talk to people, I'd always sort of stand around awkwardly because it's I always felt vulnerable. And I think it's a huge thing in our society because of how high judgment is and how high insecurity is due to when you open up that TikTok app and you see these perfect models showing off their surgically made body parts or makeup all over their face, hair done by professionals. You see this, it makes insecurity so high. So maybe you think you don't look as good as you look. And then that shies you away from speaking to somebody because you don't want them to look at you a certain way, where it's being genuine. It's going up to somebody, saying hello, being your genuine self. Not everyone's going to appreciate it. Not everyone's going to want to talk to you, and that's fine too. But you got to try because you're going to find those people that you connect with where you can add to your circle, or even just not even add to your circle. You might never see them again, but just have that genuine conversation and take something away from them.
You made their day. You made them. I talked to an elderly couple here on the bench. They were watching the sunset, and this is maybe a month ago. And there was no actual prompt to begin talking to them. I just happened to be standing near them. And I don't actually remember what initially sparked it. It was some of the small talk, but an hour and a half later, we were still talking. They were telling me beautiful pieces of wisdom about life and what to avoid and how to slow down and enjoy things. And it was an amazing conversation that I didn't expect to have. I went for a walk. They were sitting there. Something came about, and the next thing I knew, we were talking for almost 2 hours. I didn't even get their names, but there was this cool exchange at the end where it was like, I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for that. And then my day was made. I was so amped up on it. And I know they were too.
100%. Everyone knows something that you don't know.
Yeah.
And everyone has their own experience. Every single person in this world has at least one unique experience from somebody else. And I think experiences are the key to information and to learning, is because it's all real life application that matters. You could read 100 things in a textbook, or you could go online and look up how to play this song, but if you don't go and play it, what's the point of looking that up, So it's all application in a sense, where experience is that application, and you get to see, it's like when you go to buy something, you read the reviews of people who have bought it, because that's
firsthand.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why conversation is so important, is because you get in-depth looks of real life experiences.
Yeah, and different perspectives that you otherwise would not be exposed to. I mean, that's really in the aggregate total of who you become. It's exposure. I mean, what you're surrounded by, you're the sum total of all those things, and it's important to maybe get outside of your comfort zone. And it's not an easy thing to do. I don't say this with any kind of to reiterate the point. Nothing is easy, but being vulnerable is a difficult thing. It's something I'm overcoming too. I never shared music with anyone. I never played music. I still don't consider myself a performer. I have performance anxiety when it comes to playing on stage. I've butchered big shows early in some of the first shows I ever played. I'll tell this story. I'll omit some of the details, but big show in LA, right? We're sound checking. Before we go out on stage, I break a string, and I didn't have a pack of strings in my case. And my friend Gus, who I love dearly, said to me, "Why don't you have a second pack of strings, dude? We're about to play in front of 500, 600 people. You don't have any more strings?" So I book it. I run to the Guitar Center, which was like 2-3 miles away. I like ran there. I think it was probably 2-3 miles total. Ran back, get the string on, tune it up, go out on stage, sound check. I turn my volume knob down. And when we start playing, I never turned it back up. So I played the whole show with no volume. I didn't have any wedges to know that I didn't have volume. Luckily, we had another guitar player, so it wasn't like completely empty, but we had a 3-song set. We were open for a big band, iconic venue next to the Staples Center in LA. My volume was down the whole time.
It's crazy.
No one even heard me play. I was just a prop.
But in the moment, it sucks. It's the worst thing ever. You're like, oh my God,
Laugh
I can't
at it
believe
now.
it. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Not only do you laugh at it, but you learn from it. Even if it's just the simple fact of have a second pack of strings.
100%.
Like, there's always a learning experience.
Yes. And I mean, I was a experienced, maybe not performance musician at that time, but I certainly knew to turn your guitar up, you know, but in the moment, so in my head and so worried about being vulnerable, that's what did it was the inner voice of like, what if you look dumb up there? Well, you manifested that into reality. Nobody knew except for me. I'm the only one. I probably never even told that to anyone.
Yeah. And something I truly have learned over the past 2 months, like I've had this amazing awakening over the past literally month to 2 months. I would even call it a month of confidence is truly the key in 99% of situations. It's being able to have confidence in yourself that you can handle this such situation. You can take care of the situation. You can lead this group, whatever, any situation you could think of, having that confidence instead of that vulnerability. And of course, there's going to be natural vulnerability. There isn't everybody on earth, no matter who it is. Deep down, there's always that bit of insecurity. But being able to overcome that with confidence is just, it'll get you through any situation. And I've truly come to that, especially with people and going to talk to people and just having that confidence of, I can do it. I can go and talk to this person. Nothing's going to happen. Even if, like I said, even if we never talk again, you still are most likely able to take at least a little something out of that conversation.
The amount of opportunities and amazing things that have happened in my life just because I started talking to somebody, I can't even begin to tell you. And maybe I should start cataloging them or start remembering some of them because they were really interesting things. And I learned this from my dad. My dad is a conversation artist. He's a career salesman. So I grew up with him on the road, going on sales calls and being in all manner of like challenging social situations. So I just kind of emulated and watched that happen. But he's the same way. He'll go up and talk to anyone and be like, hey, we're going to tour the factory now. I was talking to the guy and all of a sudden we're in the factory touring the thing. And it's like, hey, does your son want to write? You know, whatever.
There's some natural attraction to the guy or girl who can control the room with nothing but their voice. Somebody who has that natural leadership.
It's like an aura.
Which I believe everybody has a natural leadership. It's just suppressed in
dormant
certain people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's true. It's a society for not just society now, but since humans have evolved to where there's leaders and there's followers. Everybody has the potential to be the leader. Everybody has the potential to be the follower, but we are just attracted to the leader. Why not be the leader?
Yeah. Or be the best leader you can.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that you have to lead the charge in every situation. To kind of add a counterpoint, not a counterpoint, but in addition to what you're saying about leading with confidence, also the humility to know where you don't belong. And like, these are not my strong points. I want this person to lead the charge on that. That's something that I think really lacks. The ability to delegate or also say, hey, I'm not the person for you for that. This person is much better, much more skilled than I, and I think you'd be better off choosing them. In the corporate world, that's not it. It's an ego battle, and people are constantly, it's just a battle of egos, and they don't say, I screwed up on this. I'm going to take the hit for that. I mean, politics, it's a flaw that I think is probably learned. I don't know where it originates from or how it is. It's certainly kind of maybe baked into some of the DNA of our species, but consciously saying, I don't know. There's nothing wrong in saying, I don't know.
Exactly. And in my opinion, that all stems from insecurity. That stems from not wanting to tell that person, hey, I think somebody will be able to do this better for you.
Yeah.
Because that nobody's going to look at you after and be like, oh, well, this guy's a loser because he can't do this. They're going to be like, thank you.
More respect. You saved my time.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for providing me with something better. And
and by the way, that's a lesson I've learned the hard way. Overcommitting, saying I could do that. I've made a fool of myself many times, many times. So many times that I'm like, I ain't doing that anymore. No doubt. Like that is not happening again.
Insecurity is the silent killer.
Yeah. But again, these are not easy things all the topics we're bringing up they're important topics. And I'm glad that we've covered a lot of this ground, because these are things too that once we immortalize this in conversation and can look back on 3 months from now on our next podcast, well, we'll probably do them more frequently than that, hopefully. But we can look back at those as real tangible markers of like, oh, that's how we were thinking. I mean, the metamorphosis, the evolution of your mind, your physical being, your connections. 3 months from now is going to be a whole different story. And I mean, I think given the trajectory we have at the moment and the shared vision is such an important thing to have people on your production team who believe, dude, I want to have 1 million subscribers, not for any like vanity reasons, but because that's leverage. You can make a real big impact in the world with that amount of people. And it's not for the acquisition of money or just some arbitrary collection of people, but because you can really make a big deal, real reverberations in the world, and provide tangible, meaningful things, provide actual value, even if it's just laughing, I mean, there's many different ways to provide value to people. But I know that you believe it, I believe it, and that's what it's going to take to cross that threshold.
You need that solid team. I've had past relationships with human beings, not romantic relationships, just relationships in general, to where certain ones have wanted to see me fail. Certain just didn't care if I succeeded. Those people, gone. You don't need those people. You need a solid team around you. You need that foundation. That's part of your framework, is those core people. One person doesn't build a whole house.
No.
One person doesn't make that movie. You need that core group who supports you. I have you. I have my family. There's Malia. There's Preston, Moy. All my friends. I all down the whole list of people who I know have my back regardless of what I do, regardless of what I want to pursue. They believe in me 100%, and I respect the accountability that gives me. And it's like, to me, it's disrespectful to let down the people that support you, So
definitely,
it's just having that support, and those people that believe in you are such a huge thing. It's
keep that tribe small, you know, because the bigger you get, the more it dilutes it, really. And there's been studies on this that human beings really can't maintain over, I want to say it's like 20 relationships, like friendships. Anything beyond that, it's
ingenuine.
Yeah. I mean, imagine having 100 kids. You can't raise 100 kids.
Yeah.
It's just, there's diminishing returns. You can't physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially be there for all of them. And yeah, it's cool. When you find those core people, it's important to identify that and hang on to them, and ensure too that you're helping them build as well. Because when it's just unilateral, I mean, there's no fun in just building your own thing. You got to bring people along for the ride. And that's something I really respect about a lot of some of the idols that we share, is like the way that they treat the people around them. I want you to succeed. I genuinely do, as much as I want to succeed as well. It's like it's the same amount. And I want to see that happen.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. Collaboration is key. It's mutual belief in each other's goals. I know you're going to do it.
Shared vision.
I'm going to do it. It's not that everything's about making it easier, but it is truly easier when you have that.
It's 50% easier at least.
Yeah.
Because half the belief is shared with somebody. Half the load is shared.
I forgot who it was that said the quote, but it's something along the lines of like, if your goals aren't so big that they scare you and other people, then it's not true. And there's those people that are scared of it and they push you away and they hope you don't succeed. And then there's those people that attack that fear head on with you and go into that battle of achieving whatever you want with it, that you want to bring to the top with you, and you want those people to succeed as well.
While the Wright brothers were building the first ever airplane, there were people writing whole books about how you could never achieve flight. So they were building the very thing that changed, human beings. It's one of the most amazing innovations ever, and still will be.
Yeah.
There were people writing full novels about how you could never achieve flight. And meanwhile, two bicycle builders were building what became the first ever airplane. And so when they achieved it, there were still people that were like, that ain't real. That didn't happen. Goes to show, like the power of belief, determination it's everything.
People hate seeing you succeed because, yet again, every single issue all stems from insecurity, I believe.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's a very prophetic, that's very true.
Take any issue and somewhere along the lines you will see that it stems from, fear and insecurity. And insecurity is a fear. So yes, fear, I guess.
Fear-based, emotional based. And these are things, the struggle of existing is mastering those, and maybe not even mastering. I don't know what mastery truly is. I'm no master of anything, but being able to be in control of those things, identify them, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and help share that too. That's what this is about too, is having these conversations, sharing that wisdom, and having a mutual benefit, mutually beneficial. It's huge.
Letting the mind talk.
Yeah. Bro, I think that's a great way to end that.
Definitely. I think that was an amazing 10th episode of the Mind Talks podcast. We hit a lot of topics, and I just want to give a quick note too, to where all of these topics we brought up today all stem from awareness. We are not masters at any of these topics, but where we are different from many people is that we are aware of the topics. We are aware of these things that we have to fix, and that in itself is a step into achieving all of these things. So thank you guys for tuning in into the 10th episode of the Mind Talks podcast. Thank you to Ryan James for being a great guest, producing this for me, and all in all, just helping me in life and helping me on this path to success. I'm helping him on his path to success. We're bringing up everyone around us. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.